Last Saturday against Ints, Veto made his debut in the BR6, and a high-performance debut at that. His skills helped Black Dragons win 7-2 and earned himself MVP of the match. What a start. Moments like these are why teams need to keep their eyes open at all times for these new rising stars.
Cara, acho que o Baceta é um jogador que tem que ficar de olho aí, ele foi uma revelação na Série B e vem jogando muito bem.
The Ninjas don't have much in their favour coming to this match. They've come off a sweaty win against Furia last Sunday, let alone their 7-0 loss against Team 1. Psycho and Co have only scored 3 of 12 possible points in Stage 3 so far. To make matters worse, Black Dragons have been a real thorn in NIP's side, winning the last 2 matches played between them in the BR6, 7-3 in the first stage and 8-6 in the second.
A gente sempre confiou na nossa vila, né? Mas ela tinha ficado meio que saturada assim, porque a gente tinha jogado bastante partidas. Então eles sabiam o que a gente ia fazer.
A gente se preparou muito para esse jogo, foi até um mérito para nós assim, porque eles são muito bons, a gente respeita muito eles. E foi um dos jogos que a gente mais entrou entrosado assim, a gente conseguiu comunicar muito bem, o mapa também ajudou muita gente. Tudo fluiu assim no jogo da NiP, com alguns resultados ruins antes, mas no jogo da NiP foi que tudo deu certo assim.
The standings tell a different story, however. The Ninjas hold a significant amount of points, especially many above Black Dragons. But losing too many matches in this critical stage may be the beginning of a threat to the team's Copa Elite 6 qualification. Preparation is their key to success today.
Contra a BD é um bom map veto e fazer o nosso jogo agora, começo de campeonato, estudar eles bastante e fazer o nosso padrão.
The truth is that this standard has not been enough to take the team to victories as of late. Will Black Dragons strengthen their position against their rivals, or will NIP be able to finally break the Dragon's code? Only one way to find out, with this upcoming match, Black Dragons versus Ninjas in Pyjamas.
Well, it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think that's safe to say. Black Dragons recently have been on really good form, and NIP, well, maybe not so much. I think we should just honestly just get straight into the map vetoes, figure out where we're going to end up, Ollie.
Yeah, let's send it through. It's I think we're trying to speed run through this one as we're trying to make up for a little bit of lost time, so we're going to waste no time. Villa being removed by NIP, well, there is the day. That's not something that anyone really expects. NIP known to be a very good Villa team, but in recent memory have dropped off just a little bit. Clubhouse, Chalet, Calf Bank, all to be removed. We are going to end up on Oregon. We haven't had a lot of Oregon this stage. It's really fallen out of favour. Kind of surprised to see it here and now. Not particularly a map that NIP are known for, at least recently, but it hasn't seen a great deal of play. Obviously, if you look back a little bit further, they're a team that have had their successes on this map previously. And Black Dragons, again, in recent memory, haven't had a very good win percentage on here either. So, what have we got here? Well, we've got a team in Black Dragons that are relatively new. We've got Baseto, who's obviously stepped in for resets. So, there's a bit of a question mark over how that player is gonna settle into the side. It's always something to keep an eye out on. And then you've got an NIP that are kind of down and out at the minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gio.
I'm so sorry. I was just going to say, Ollie, you and I were having a chat yesterday, and one of the things we were talking about was the statistics of some of these NIP players where, what was it, Moosey's the only one he's not even positive. He's 0 for, what was it, KD entry? One of the two. Whereas everyone else is negative, and it's so uncharacteristic for the team.
Yeah, it's super rough for them. But the question is now, Ollie, can they start to redeem themselves? Because obviously Black Dragons, they've had a pretty strong start with Baseto coming in, replacing resets. It's been exciting to watch. But now that NIP are against one of those lower teams again that they seemingly have struggled against in the rest of the stage, do you think they're maybe going to underestimate their opponent? Or if they learned the lessons, like, we can't afford to do this anymore?
I mean, NIP are in that do or die, aren't they? They cannot afford to lose many more games. You look at them in the standings, sure, they're sitting on 37 points and they're in third, but that's tied up with fourth, which is not far off being tied up with 5th, especially now given that Team 1 have won. They'll have actually leapfrogged all of these teams that I've just talked about, and they will now be in 3rd. So it is very hotly contested, and NIP haven't got the same benefit that a team like Liquid or FaZe have, in that they've had a very good stage 1, 2, and 3. NIP had a shocking stage 1, they had a great stage 2, so because of the cumulative standings, they just haven't got that same level of buffer, and they need to finish fairly strongly here inside of stage 3 if they want to at least qualify for the Copa Elite 6, which they will likely do, but you've got to set your sights a little bit further than that and think about what they're looking to qualify for that's going to be in the next 3-6 months' time.
Yeah, it's a rough one. Now, look, Gio, we know that it's going to be rough for NIP right here. We know that it's do or die time for them, but I think that's equally true to a certain extent for Black Dragons, currently sat in 7th place overall, just below that cutoff. And obviously with MIBR having a decent game there, they want to be able to pick up those points and overtake MIBR, get back into the top 6. It'd be a big feat for Black Dragons to come out on top of NIP. I don't think there's anyone who can really deny that. But the question is, are they going to be on that top form that we've seen in previous weeks? And players like Baseto just coming in huge.
I mean, listen, the thing with Black Dragons is that this entire year has been hugely developmental for them, because every single stage their roster has changed. So I think Black Dragons are kind of trying to find their footing, figure out who they are, and, of course, improve throughout the course of the stage. And if they manage to qualify and get in for the Copa Elite 6, that's awesome. But that is very different from the position that NIP are in, if you ask me. NIP nearly won the World Championship last year. They won this year. Then they completely dropped off the face of the earth in the Mexico Major, and they don't seem to have bounced back from that. The expectations for this team are incredibly high. The roster of this team has not changed. It's one of the longest standing rosters in Brazilian Rainbow Six at all, or just Rainbow Six as a whole. These two teams are on very different pages in terms of their life stories.
Yeah.
And whatever happens with Black Dragons here, you know what? It'd be awesome if they won. It'd be fantastic. And it has been great to see them improve from where they were at the start of stage 1, but they do not have the same needs and expectations as Ninjas in Pyjamas do. And so I think that direct comparison is not even possible just because of who and what these two teams are.
Look, I just love me an underdog. Obviously, Black Dragons, they've come out on top of Team Liquid, but now it's going to be a real feat if they can continue that trajectory with NIP. The game is now underway, so once again, Ollie, Gio, take it away.
Thank you very much, Chunks. We are ready to hop into our 3rd game of the night. We've got Black Dragons, we've got NIP, we have got Oregon for a change. Off the top of my head, could be the first Oregon we've seen this stage. We did see FaZe play on it in week 1.
Definitely the first time these two teams have played Oregon in this stage. So
I'm going to go ahead and say second time we've seen it this stage.
It is weird, isn't it? Do you remember the days of Oregon, where every day in every region it would just be Oregon?
Just even when there was no seed, just every day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's what.
Imagine how the people who live in Oregon feel.
Oh, it must be a nightmare. The traffic must be unreal.
Oh, dear.
Thatcher, Flores, Wamai, and Cade. Good bands. Good bands for Oregon. Not often that you get the Flores band coming through, but if there is any map to do it on, this is going to be the one. So much value can be found out of those drones, and you really want to try and limit that use as much as possible. Thatcher, because why not? It's Thatcher. He is not allowed to play any game of Siege ever again. Wamai and Arcade means that the hatches are going to be a little bit less pressured, bit easier to get open. Never too much of a problem. Maverick can do the job here. It's not like you've got the same time pressures as you do on a map like Bank. You've only realistically got one hatch that you absolutely need to get open here on Oregon. So everything can get that job done. We're going to be kicking off things on the basement.
Some more Finka who's going to be coming in today as well. We've seen a decent amount of Finka. today on we saw some on Villa earlier on. We even got to see a little bit on Bank, not a ton. And the Twitch as well. Twitch has been particularly popular. On the other side of things, so we had a 6 pick coming out from NIP. Psycho originally picked onto the Valkyrie, which is a very psycho operator, but has actually decided to go for the Ella, who is relatively popular to play on this site. You know, you can put the Gurjmot mines up towards the tower stairs, for example, is a relatively popular place to play them. And of course, I know that you are just in love with her gun. So
The shotgun?
Or any of them. You always go nuts over Ella weapons.
The Scorpion back in the day was unbelievable. Now, Psycho's actually playing the Scorpio, which is kind of weird because usually if you see an Ella played on this site, it's because you want the shotgun, it's because you want the FO12. The automatic shotgun is just, it's unbelievable. At the close ranges and in some of the locations that you're going to want to play that Ella, you can really cause a lot of damage, but Psycho hasn't actually opted for that. As we mentioned in the pre-game, Gio, there's a need to keep a very keen eye on a lot of these players for NIP because nobody is standing head and shoulders above the rest and outperforming in terms of kills. So I'm not expecting NIP to be playing very confidently here. I think we're going to see a very reserved NIP. It could be one of the reasons why we've ended up on a map like Oregon. They're just looking to get themselves back into the swing of things, find their own rhythm again here. And really start to take a little bit of this advantage that you do get as a defender on this map.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Oregon was a map that NIP were pretty decent at. We didn't see a ton of them play it in Stage 2, but when they did fairly well at. Whereas I think that, you know, you can argue that Villa is a map that they are known for being good at, but they never got the opportunity to play it much because people would ban it against them so frequently. So, yeah, maybe this just does feel a bit more comfortable for them. They just feel a bit more at home on Oregon. It is that sort of default-ish sort of map.
Absolutely. If you can't play in Oregon, then, you know, you really need to get practicing in Oregon.
Get out of Siege.
Yeah, because it is a map that you're going to get taken to pretty regularly. And so far, NIP, they're just holding back. They have got no need to overextend it. They've got no need to aggressively peek. They've got mirror windows to use. They've got a ton of C4s to be going at as well, 2 to be exact. Kamikaze is already deploying his Toxic Babe canisters, knowing that those C4s are still yet to come. And all of this is just slowing Black Dragons down to a crawl. Now, they are going to be able to eventually start challenging on through. Perez is going to be on the landing of the rear stairs, but still cut off by the Toxic Babe gas as 25 seconds ticks down. Pino in position to throw the C4 out, but it's going to go too long. Perez, he hits the team kill. Julio's C4 will land as the kills do now start to fly. Pino is going to be taken out as Basetto. He's going to pick up his second kill inside of this round. 2 versus 2, all square. 7 seconds left. A push needs to happen, and it needs to happen quickly. Julio will shut down Basetto, but the trade was there. No, it wasn't. Missed his shots. Julio, he turns him and he burns him.
What the hell? I mean, Julio actually had a couple of kills in that round where he reacted really well, and you thought he could be going down here, but that... he should not have been allowed that one. No way. And I actually, you know, I was really focused on the way that Pino was setting up to defend onto Frieza and still missed a player who was in there. It was Live, who was just hiding in the corner of Frieza and went unnoticed despite the C4 kill that was able to be gotten and things like that. And I was thinking, man, I thought this was going really well. It seems to be falling apart a little bit. But Julio, I guess his reaction times today seem to be really good. And whatever even happened with that kill, that should have been free onto him.
It wasn't round winning, but it should have been free for sure. I have no idea how that doesn't go through. Julio must have had a very slim amount of health left, and maybe 1 or 2 of the bullets didn't actually connect. But alas, a round that goes to NIP. They're going to be very pleased with that. It's a good start, probably one of the better starts that they've had so far this stage. Julio picking 3 kills up as well. Always nice to see. So, potential potential yet here for NIP. I just want to see them back at their old confident self, because they've really just looked like a bit of a shell of the team that we saw dominate at Six Invitational.
That's what I want as well, because that's the NIP that everyone thought that they were going to be seeing at the Mexico Major, and they just didn't seem to arrive. I don't know, maybe their plane was just really delayed or something, but whatever it was, they didn't show up at the Major. So going into stage 3, that is the NIP we really want to see, because we want to know it's still alive. We want to know it's still in there. And when you look at other teams like Team Liquid, who have finally conceded that it is time for them to make roster changes, no one wants to be looking at NIP and being like, maybe they should do the same. Do you know what I mean? You want to have faith in this team. You want to be rooting for them. So to see them play confidently, to see them play well, is everything that people want. Now, Black Dragons just getting ready to breach, attack on into Attic. They've already breached it. Again, we've got the classic, the Psycho Clash, which is usually a bit of a nightmare to get past.
Interesting to see Psycho on the Clash as well. A player that has really struggled in this stage for kills. So, you know, it's not detriment at the moment to NIP to have, I mean, any one of their players on a shield operator. You think, you know, they're not going to be able to, you know, be there in the fight, but it's going to provide that walking information. It provides a big mean force that Black Dragons are going to have to try and counter and deal with. And again, it just does more to waste the time. NIP in that previous round, they were concerned with one thing and one thing only, and that was the clock. They were happy to give away map control. They were happy to, you know, let people push into the bottom of rear stage stairs, but then they were just looking to hold the attackers in those locations. And I imagine we're going to see a very similar thing here and now once again. They've got the Echo, they've got the Yokai drones that are going to be knocking about out there, Clash on the shield. All of this is in an attempt to deny a lot of time, couple it with the Toxic Babe canisters, and Black Dragons are really in quite a bad problem. 40 seconds left and still no closer to even burning that utility.
All of these players of NIP still in the positions, ready to deal with whatever may come, and Patoxy is the first one to be gunned down. Perez getting ready with the nade. It deals a little bit of damage, but not quite enough. Kamikaze finally falls as the first casualty on the side of NIP, but it's not going to stop Basetto from getting ready with the plant, and it looks like he's just going to be able to finish it perfectly fine. Now the tables have turned, Ollie.
I mean, how that has gone down is a miracle in itself. Are NIP in a position to try and retake? Surely they have the means to do so. Muzi, he's going to be the first one to get taken out as Basetto shuts him down. The Clash is doing their best, but is it going to be enough? Psycho and Pino, only Psycho now left remaining, locked into that 1v1 with Perez, and Perez shuts him down. He's played the window beautifully there. So much information available for him. 2 red pings, 1 yellow ping. Everything that he required to clutch that round up, he had in his control and right in front of him. Black Dragons, how they get a plant down with that much denial on the board, I have got no idea.
No, that was the thing that really took me by surprise, because there were kills going on around them at the time the plant was going down. I thought for sure it would at least get interrupted. But Basetto just continued, and he got it done. And suddenly it was like, well, momentum's changed, and you've got to start moving this way instead of that way. The responsibility to be shouldered changed hands, you know? So, yeah, that all just shifted in one very, very small space. One thing I did really like as well was just, you already complimented the way that Perez was playing and the information and the way it was coordinated, but I just really like the patience. I think that one issue that I have with a number of players, especially in those really intense situations like that, is sometimes they can get impatient, they can overstep, they can over peak. For example, Black Dragons have always been a very aggressive team, especially when Perez was working alongside resets. They would kind of just run and gun because they could. But for Perez to play in that disciplined way, knowing that the support of his team was going to help facilitate him getting what he needed and getting that opening, that was very nice in my opinion.
Seto currently top frag as well on the side of Black Dragons, even on that support role, whether it be the Hibana or the Thermite. So, 1 round apiece. Nothing too clear cut so far. The basement goes to the defenders. Okay, it's expected, but the top floor goes to the attackers. Well, we maybe have a game on our hands here. Another attempt at that top floor remains here for NIP. Looks as though already they're going to approach it a little bit differently to they have previously. Julio almost gets caught out by the Claymore there. I'm surprised that nobody from Black Dragons actually heard him, but he's hightailed it through the basement, and he's going to make that rotation up White Stairs.
I don't think anybody knows that he's here right now. It's going to give him a lot of space, though, to actually do some scouting out. Very quickly going, because he knows the repel was there, the run out works, nice kill onto Iron, and he can just go back and, you know, take refuge in the basement once more.
Julio's doing that dangerous lurk roam that you can just never really get a full control or handle of. Even if you had a Nomad in this situation, it likely wouldn't be enough, just because he's got so many options to rotate through. You know, can play downstairs in the basement, be wherever he is required. Plenty of information available for him as well, and impacts give him that flexibility to make those quick and bold plays. Sure, it'd be nice to have a C4 and to try and affect onto the site from below at a later point in the round, but ultimately the impacts are going to give him that flexibility that he needs to be able to operate here in this middle part of the round. And already, it's done quite a bit to slow Black Dragons down. Psycho, he's going to take out Perez. Kamikaze looking to challenge onto the attic, but he won't be required as Pino is there to pick up the kill. Live comes in pretty big though, refragging onto 2. At the top of Armory Stairs, he has a ping, and he still knows that Julio is going to be a threat from below.
And again, it just becomes all quiet. See how Live and Bassetto work together on this. Already in the space of a couple of rounds, I've been pretty happy with Bassetto's ability. Now they're just trying to pinch here. Bassetto gets the kill onto Kamikaze. Puts it in the 2 versus 2. The other 2 players of NIP are both upstairs. Just trying to avoid the flash. As Julio's also looking for his prey, but Live barely gives him the opportunity. He's traded out and is back to the 1 versus 1. Bassetto gets the kill and Black Dragons take the round.
That was a great 2 versus 4. Bassetto and Live. Was it 2 versus 5? Incredible stuff that they were able to pull off there. I think very shocking that you see NIP actually fall for that and continue to lose man after man. Some terrible information exchange on the side of NIP there as well. That there was times where they really knew exactly where Black Dragons were and just weren't in position to get trades off. Only the last couple of kills really coming down as trades. Everything up until that point was pretty one-sided one way or another. Julio, for his fantastic start and the way that he was sort of prowling around in the basement, posing this really big threat, just didn't come to anything. With no Nomad available, he could have made a flank anywhere he wanted, and Bassetto was borderline a free picking if he'd have gone up the Armory side. So a strange situation to be in, and I think NIP will be glad to get themselves back down onto the basement.
So again, it's just, we've only seen 2 sites so far. And I always get a bit skeptical when there are teams that don't really want to branch out into a tertiary site. It makes you wonder how confident they're feeling. I suppose if you are NIP and you have the option to just remain within these 2 sites, then okay, go for it, fine. But still, just an interesting one. Now, also, I think the Black Dragons are going to try and be quite bolsterous here because they've decided to bring along a Ying. So maybe not going to play quite so patiently, quiet, attrition-y, which is not a word, on their push into the basement. Instead, they're going to want to full white flash everybody, boost themselves up because they've got the thinker once again, and just go for it.
I think the confidence that Black Dragon have got at the moment, it makes a lot of sense for them to be going for that sort of a play. NIP are still looking like they're scared to really get fully involved and to extend onto this roam game all too much. They're just happy to sit back and let the round come to them. it's going to come with a lot of flashing lights this time if they let that happen. And for all that the Roam wasn't entirely successful in getting the round previously, that wasn't where the large part of the problem was. The Roam was successful. Julio did a great job. It was everything that came after that that didn't really work out too well for them. Now, the biggest question is, where are these Candelas actually going to go here? Because what do? You're going to be faced with a mirror window or Muzi playing on elbow. So neither of these options are too appealing to me at the moment. I think Black Dragons just need to put a bit more work in before they choose to go for this big, bold entrance.
I think that's one of the biggest mistakes you can make, right? Is just go too heavily on that, as you say, big, bold entrance without considering all of the things you're going to have to face once you actually get through. And too many teams in the past have tripped up on that exact mistake. It still requires a decent amount of prep, which is why we usually see the Candelas used pretty close to the end of the round. It's only once you know that it's safe to drop that meeting hatch that you're going to see them actually invested.
I'm nervous. It's an electrical hatch drop. You can hear the Candelas going off. Kamikaze gets shot in the back. We do see it come through as a trade. Julio is holding on to a C4 lined up, ready to go, but kills keep coming in now. Black Dragons, they've been able to pick up 2. It wasn't the bold entrance that they were looking for, but slowly but surely they're going to be able to start to take NIP down before the response from Muzi and Julio. 2 versus 2 now with 40 seconds left. There's a lot of time here to play with. Muzi, he's going to be the first to fall. Ion shuts him down on the long angle. Julio once again left to try and clutch out here. Can't land the first. Perez, he's able to make the swing under the stim of the Finker. Lands his shots. He didn't have to land too many, mind, but Black Dragons have been successful downstairs. They've been able to root NIP out now of the 2 sites that we've seen played and currently lead 3 rounds to 1.
Okay, this is where my concern from the last round comes back, and I actually say it a bit more firmly. NIP are still insisting on returning to that same site. There is no tertiary site in play here, right? Because even if they lose this one, they can go back to... Actually, nothing has been stopping them from going back to kids' dorms because they haven't won it at all. They do not want to go to one of the kitchen sites. For whatever reason, they don't want to go there. To me, that's a warning sign.
They don't want to go anywhere, Gio.
No, I don't think they do.
It genuinely feels like they just do not want to go anywhere at all. Because they've been successful downstairs. Great. That's something. But it isn't enough. You can't just win one defensive round on an Oregon. Now, we're going to be downstairs in the basement yet again. It's kind of dumbfounding when you see an Oregon that goes this attacker, or this heavily to the attackers. I'm not going to use the word attacker-sided because it just isn't. Like, it just can't be. But the fact that we've seen Black Dragons successfully pull 3 rounds here out, they've got the potential here to go better than a 3-3 split, which for an Oregon is going to be ideal for them. They're going to have a lot of confidence off the back of this as well. And they're attacking into the basement yet again. They may have been a little bit baited here on the lineup that they've brought. They've not brought the Ying this time, but it wasn't a big factor in the previous round, so I don't think they're going to be too concerned. But as far as Black Dragons are concerned, rinse and repeat. You know, they've just got to do the same again.
Yeah, I don't think Black Dragons have any reason to particularly be worried. Sure, they haven't brought the Ying this time. That was 6 picked off of. But for the most part, they're sitting pretty comfortably around the epicenter of what they've been bringing before. That same core. All right, I have a good start, but immediate trade. And for me, this comes... Oh, what? Okay. For me, this comes back to kind of what we were saying about Muzi, right? It's like, sure, he gets that kill, great, but then it's immediately nullified.
It's the control that's gone with that as well. Pino is able to shut down Ion, so it isn't looking too bad. Kamikaze in position to do very much the same, but Perez still needs to be stopped. Eventually, he will be. Kamikaze's been able to rotate on into the site. 3 versus 2 in favour of NIP, but still, the control is in the hands of Black Dragons. Basetto is going to be holding the cross as Patoxy gathers a bit of information here on the drone. I imagine that spray was a drone or the drone getting taken out, as we now see Patoxy is going to be out just trying to hold on to that bunker entrance. Black Dragons, again, in a good position. They don't need to worry too much here. They can afford to hold the angles for a few seconds. They've still got a couple of drones available between them, but there's some really important engagements to win. And Bassetto's going to give himself up to Psycho. Psycho's patience will pay off there. And Patoxy is on 1 HP and a dream. A round will go here to NIP. That means one thing, Gio. It means they are now forced off the basement.
It means they can go back to Kids Dorms. Yay! Where they did not have a particularly good time. Hey, look at that. They're going to Kids Dorms. Who would have guessed? That was a hard one. Sorry. I was about to say something. I just inhaled my own saliva. I didn't have time to press the mute button. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I want to see some change come out of NIP here. I think this is a change from what I can remember, because this looks very roam heavy. Not that they weren't roaming before, but I mean, there's no plant denial here either. This is just fully, I don't want to say winging it, that's a bit cruel, but they're not worrying about what's going to happen at that point in the round. I think they're more concerned about what happens in everything leading up to that point.
This is where I think NIP are better, though. I feel like they're better on, you know, the Mozzie, the Valkyrie, like the Alibi. Like this is what NIP are good at. You know, and it's not to say that they're particularly bad at the plant denial, but I just feel like it was a bit of a disingenuous playstyle to where their roots lie.
Yeah, but can everyone be that? in a Rainbow Six team, can everyone be that?
Yeah, like NIP have been that. You know, and it's usually, I guess the weirdest thing here is that it's Kamikaze that's playing the Alibi and it's Pino that's on the mute. You know, typically Kamikaze's that hard anchor. So there'd be this lineup, and then Kamikaze would be the smoke or the mute or the echo or something along those lines.
I was going to say, I feel like NIP is definitely one of those teams that feels like everybody can flex, but if you're looking for who is going to be more towards the anchor end of the spectrum, it is going to be Kamikaze. If someone's playing that role, it will be him. And usually if someone's going to be a hard entry, it's probably going to be Muzi. But for the most part, all of them can be flexible. It's just, I guess they've all chosen to be in the same part of the spectrum for this round, because everybody wants to get in on that relatively similar role. I mean, I want to see it work, because NIP have had a pretty rubbishy time on this site so far. So yeah, by all means, do whatever thing different you feel you have to do.
I think holding a little bit more of the map is just important as well. You know, we've seen them defend down in the basement, and all but the last round, they were very turtled in on that defense. And now that they're looking to flex, they're looking to hold a little bit more of an extension. Already, it's slowing Black Dragons down. And Black Dragons haven't really been pinched for time all too much inside of this game just yet. Kamikaze opens things up with a kill onto Live. It was, I think, a direct approach into sight that was thwarted quite early on. Julio finds one onto Perez, making that roam game and that lurk inside of the basement work once again. Pino will be chunked on down, but still, Black Dragon's yet to find a kill, as another goes in favour of Kamikaze, and Patoxy, as the flank watch, is left as the last remaining player. Kamikaze does him a favour and levels this up somewhat into a 1 versus 4, not a 1 versus 5.
That's why Kamikaze usually plays the hard anchor.
Because he just can't be trusted.
He can't be trusted.
I mean, I would not want anybody that does that to play a hard anchor. He literally impacted himself.
At least if he like toxic babes himself, it's not going to be quite the same effect.
True. Maybe we limit him to just smoke and echo and things that he can't hurt himself with.
Yeah.
But Toxie's still doing a little bit of damage here. He's managed to take out Pino. But again, such a long way to go. 30 seconds. You can't imagine a world where NIP let this one slip. They're still holding upstairs. The diffuser is in Narnia for all intents and purposes. It will not be a factor in the next 19 seconds. As Patoxy makes his rotation in and will be shut down by Muzi. A couple of people on the side of NIP holding that angle. Everyone knew that he was going to come in through the bottom of white, and Muzi eventually shuts him down, leveling us up to a 3-3 split.
Which is not bad. And NIP finally proved that they can indeed successfully defend 2 rounds. 2 sites. Pretty impressive stuff. No, I'm being a little bit cruel, but I think that for a lot of that half, we didn't see an NIP that we know we could see. And it was a little bit confusing. But they are now on the attack. They're going to be 6-picking off of their Maverick, heading over into the Monty. We just get a nice little view on that really, really nasty kill from Patoxy in through big window. But yeah, so NIP, they're going to be coming in on the Monty, which I would say is a bit of a... That's like what NIP like to pull out when, you know they can, and they know that maybe they've not been doing so well on other stuff. It's like they've always got the shields in pocket.
Yeah. The going gets tough and the shields get going.
Exactly.
That's really what happens on NIP, and it's usually Julio that pulls that that panic lever. In this instance, Psycho is going to be playing on the Monty. Guess it makes sense, you know, as we've mentioned already, they can all play everybody else, every other operator, so there's no real advantage to one or the other taking either role. Let's see just a really nice condensed pocket strat here from Nip. I think they've long been a proponent of the freezer-sided push, and it's something that I know that we've sort of discussed it at great length, Gio, whether, you know, is freezer a good option, is the electrical hatch a good option, is the laundry a good option? And NIP have always been a team that have historically favoured that freezer side of things.
Oh, yeah. I always use, back in stage 1 especially, I always used to make fun of NIP for how they just insisted on doing freezer pushes all the time. But it's like they would send all 5 players into freezer every single round. It would drive me insane. And they did start to make it a bit more dynamic, a bit more kind of layered in stage 2. And I was a bit less mad at them. So I don't think I'm necessarily expecting a 5-man freezer push, but it would not shock me if the focus of NIP's attack were to be freezer. And the fact that they have drones set up down there leads me to believe that that is probably the case.
I guess at least here they're actually getting laundry hatch open as well. Now, Julio, gutting. Not been able to get his Twitch drone down. It's actually got caught inside of a mute jammer straight away. He's going to risk the second. Julio, you know exactly where the jammer is. You've just thrown your Twitch drone into the same place where your first one got caught.
Oh, no.
Man, like that was their chance to get the mirror window open and to actually allow the Monty to push on through. Instead, they're relying off the back of Muzi and his skill. Muzi's been able to find one. He's still got a mirror window facing him, but fortunately for him, nobody is going to be playing it. Nobody is inside of laundry in a position to make use of that window. But nobody really knows that on the side of NIP because of the mute jammer that is cutting everything off. Psycho has obviously been able to move through as the human drone and call that out. And now the nades can start to work on through. Pino picks one up with a nade and then takes out Ion as well. A much better attack here from NIP versus anything that we've seen up until this point. Live is the last player alive. It's not a nice way to go, but it's almost inevitable at that point. Psycho drops the shield, says, guys, you've all had one. I fancy one for myself as well. Live basically gives himself up there. NIP, what an execute there onto that laundry site.
I think at least at the end of the day, we know that the shock drone mute jammer altercation did not end up being a huge problem for...
It's a relief. It's a big relief.
It is. It's nice. It's nice. It's certainly, you know, they managed to get past that hard time in their lives and push forward into greener pastures. But no, that was certainly nice to see because it was a round where you could absolutely tell NIP had the control. And I think that's probably the first time that I think it's really fair to say that about NIP in this game. Yeah, they got some round wins on their defensive half, but it never looked like they really had everything in the palm of their hand. So maybe that's going to be a tradition that continues forward in the rest of this game. Obviously, they're going to have to be attacking onto a different site next time. So it's simply not practical to be bringing something like a Monty if you're wanting to push upstairs. They've decided to bring the Ying this time as well. I'm wondering if this is going to be like a big window Ying, maybe, or maybe a Kid Storms Ying. Where do you think this Ying is going to be?
What brand is your Ying?
Yeah, what flavor Ying?
Could Could be an attic flavored Ying.
Ooh, an attic Ying.
Yeah, that's like the limited edition. It's not in every shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
I wonder
hard to get hold of.
if we'll get limited edition Ying today. There's I suppose we'll have to see. I mean, it looks like Iron's just going to be the only one down here in pit who's watching out for whatever's happening in attic, and he's got one of his Vulcan shields present there with him too. Now, those can be... That utility that is in pit can be removed pretty easily because they got an ADS, they got the Vulcan shield, both of which can just be dealt with by Julio, assuming that it doesn't get caught in anything that it shouldn't. I don't know where the mute jammers have been placed, but likely there's going to be one on the attic wall at least because that's going to need to be breached.
I think even if Julio knows where they are, he's not going to care. He's going to try and give it a chance anyway. Of course,
Brute force past the mute jammer.
Yeah, we are being a little bit mean there, but it was quite funny to watch. Patoxy, he gets rooted out fairly early. Muzi's drone work proving thorough as ever. You're going to need something different to deal with the barbed wire. I don't think that the X-Kairos pilots are going to quite do the job there. Julio gets himself up onto the master balcony as well. The pieces are slowly but surely falling into place. It looks as though we're going to see not quite the home brand Ying, but the big window Ying coming through, as that's at least where Psycho is posturing at the moment.
No limited edition. We're just going to get the regular... It's like if it were in an alpha pack, this would be the Ying that's like a white or a blue.
Yeah, this is like you've got Ying at home.
Ying at home. Well, Bassetto's been shifted out of his position, but he's got the shotgun locked and loaded, ready to go. Doesn't look like anybody's going to be aggressing onto him as the rappel is still being held, basically holding him back and preventing him from peeking. So if he does do that, he's probably in big trouble. Although he has managed to find a way forward, still just holding on. That nade is going to be rather painful, though. And finally, the closet has been cleared.
It's kind of unusual to see the first kill happen at around the 45-second mark, at least in the lens of this game. Pino gets himself down as Patoxy picks one up onto Julio, so things not looking too good here for NIP. Kamikaze needs a big entry, and he needs it now, but he too will be shut on down. A severe lack of information. The Candela's come in, but Psycho, what are you realistically able to do here? You're going to be 1 versus 3. Everyone might be blind, but that's no good. Everybody knows exactly where you are. Behind the beds. He's going to try and pre-fire his way out of this one. Picks up one onto Patoxy. Knows that there's going to be somebody inside of Kids. Looks to push through and pick up that diffuser, but will be taken down by Perez. Perez picked up 3 kills there in the dying stages of that round. And NIP just didn't have enough information.
Yeah, NIP seemed a bit more reluctant in that round. They weren't quite as... I don't know, like braggadocious about going forward and just like pushing in the same way that they had been in that first round. And again, that could come down to sort of, as much as we kind of joke about it, NIP have a very characteristic way that they like to play on the basement. They know their comfort zone, whereas that's not quite as true up on the top floor. Now, what that kind of means here is that, you know, Black Dragons, they won that last round. They can't go back upstairs. They clearly don't want to go to a tertiary site. They've decided that they want to go back to their primary, which is that place that NIP feel more comfortable. And they've read into that, you can tell, because of the composition that they've chosen for their operators. So is the same thing just going to happen once again? Because Black Dragons themselves are playing something very similar, if not exactly the same, as what they were at the beginning. They have a ton of sight set up because they're running 3 shotguns. Although, actually, I don't know for sure that Patoxy's not running the carbine. He could be on a shotgun too. I don't think he is. Yeah, there we go. There's the carbine. Boring. What are Black Dragons going to do in this round to ensure that the same thing's not going to happen? Because as much of a joke as it is, you can't guarantee that Julio is going to throw his drone into a mute jammer once again. Likelihood is he's not going to. So that's one of those things that was unexpected in that round that kind of slowed NIP down a bit. It wasn't enough to stop them from getting the round. But the point is, you've got to bring in other things now that are going to sufficiently slow them down.
Yeah, and NIP aren't going to make the same mistakes twice likely as you mentioned. So a quick drone of the attic calls it clear as Pino can start to get a handle on where everybody is going to be. Julio actually getting himself off the attic rappel as they realise that nobody really from the side of Black Dragons is going to be outside of the site. They can just solely focus on putting pressure on. It's a very effective way to do the roam clear. If you can pre-place drones and get a very quick early understanding that there's going to be nobody out there, look at the flexibility now that NIP have. They don't need to get a body in upstairs because they've been very effective up until this point. There are still a lot of problems to solve, but they've got tons of time to do so.
Pellets just opening up the freezer hatch. Muzi's trying to be careful, sending in the drone. I think that's so that Pino gets this information. There we go.
Oh,
Nate can be perfectly thrown in to remove life. So they've gotten that space there in freezer, but of course there are a couple of players just on the other side in laundry that they're still going to have to worry about.
I think that Julio was successful this time in actually opening up that mirror window now. It could do one or two things. It could give something really to peek out of for Black Dragon. Psycho can't push as far up as he did previously for fear that he's going to be shot in the back. For all that he's got great protection to the front, he has no protection to his back. Muzi will actually be able to wallbang there over onto Perez as he's got the vertical angle. He's made that rotation and he's really made it work for himself. Now Psycho can continue to gather this information. Muzi knows that there's going to be a player just in front of the shield. Nearly gets himself caught out there and just needs to be careful, but Psycho draws for the pistol and will shut down Ion. Now the pressure can really start to mount from the laundry side of things, as Psycho is in danger of becoming top frag here on the Monty. Picks himself up 2 on the round. Basetto falls and only Patoxy remains. Psycho, can you do it? No, eventually will be shut on down, but there's 20 seconds left. Patoxy, 1 HP and a dream. He was always going to get pinched. Muzi, the player to shut him down. NIP again, another very successful attack downstairs.
Yeah, the answer to the question, can Black Dragons figure out how to stop NIP from doing the same thing over again, was no. I'm wondering if that's going to make them a bit more trepidatious about returning to that site in the future. I guess we'll have to see. But the main thing, I suppose, is that NIP just have such a clean way of getting into freezer. Even after they landed that first nade and they knew that there were other players they would have to deal with, they did so really well. And actually, the way that that Pino and Psycho worked together to ensure that the... Oh, here we go. Here's the nade. Beautiful.
That was, I just want to say, that was classed as a funny replay from production. I'm not, like, if anyone laughed, please let us know, but I didn't laugh.
Oh, I really hope producer Simon was hot mic then. Ooh. He's been mean to you. Being mean to you,
Funny
Ollie.
replay, Gio. Get ready to fake laugh.
Anyway, the point is, the way that Pino and Psycho actually worked together after that was really good. How Psycho was in the doorway, Pino was shooting between the door and the soft wall. So it meant that the attention of the player they were going up against was always split, and that allowed Psycho to get the pistol kill while crouched down, even though he was directly in front of the guy. So it's just a very, very clean freezer attack from NIP that's going to need a lot more attention from Black Dragons if they are to go there again.
Psycho is he's gone from one side of the coin to the other, really, hasn't he? He's gone from the Monty, and now he's on the Nook.
Doing an Almau.
He was kind of doing a bit of a Nook's job there in that last round. He was kind of the opposite, but he was getting kills, and he was crouch walking, which is a very keen characteristic of the Nook, and I'm sure something that we'll look to see him do in this round if he gets the opportunity. It's just good to see NIP getting kills. You look across their scores right now, nearly everybody is positive. Everybody bar Kamikaze has got a positive kill-death ratio. Something that we were discussing at length is that these guys they've played shockingly so far in the stage. There's no nice way of putting it. So to see them going positive here, to see them having a chance at coming out with a win in a game which, you know, has been very competitive for them and it hasn't been gifted to them, is always a good thing, especially when you know what this team is capable of. It's by no means said and done, But so far, it's looking at least promising that they're going to be able to pick up a couple of rounds. And they only need 2 to take the game.
Well, they just got to keep it up, but you have to remember, of course, that things are very close between these two teams right now. But with Psycho opening up things like that, maybe NIP are not too far away from victory at all. They have breached open the walls required from Small Tower, but not yet cleared out showers. That's going to be their next point. Now, they know where Pino is now. They got to kind of stop, think about what's going on. Uzi trying to hold in through showers, but again, have not cleaned out Perez.
Not a player that you can afford to ignore, but he does get swung, and he will die. Kamikaze is there with the swing. Ion trying to hold on to that white stairs window. Him and Live are the only 2 that remain. They do make it a 2 versus 4, but Live's got so much to do. Quick hatch drop could actually make this a little bit more viable. Ion has to find himself in the right place at the right time. Gets the peek onto Psycho. How does he land those shots? He's very quickly becoming quite winnable here for Black Dragons, especially given that they have the yokai drones. Only able to gather information, though, as they will be shot out before anything useful can happen with them. Pino will shut down Ion, and the plant will start to go down. Live, can you land your shots? No, runs out of ammo, draws for the bear in 9, but it is all too late. Pino, he's there to collect the final kill, and NIP put themselves onto a match point.
It feels like we're casting an entirely different NIP in this second half of the game compared to the first. It's actually a real NIP. They're having a pretty good attack so far. And now Black Dragons have decided that they're going to be returning back to the basement, which I think this is really risky territory just because of how we spoke about things, you know, being earlier. Now, this mirror pick, I'm quite a fan of, and I want to definitely see one of those windows be... Oh, come on! I was going to say I really want to see one of those windows be used on the freezer wall. I think it could help them, you know, bolster their freezer defense, which is the thing that they were struggling the most with. But alas, Mirror is not actually going to be brought in this round whatsoever. It's going to be Valkyrie instead, which may be a bit of a struggle against Muzi's IQ.
Yeah, the IQ is... I can see why it's brought on some maps rather than others. For example, on Oregon, I think there's probably a lot of value that you can get out of the IQ because you can scan a large area quite quickly, and especially with the changes, given that you can now categorize what it is exactly you've scanned on the scanner instead of having to guess off outline or site or location. You can now figure out exactly what it is. The scanner will tell you. So I think you probably get a bit more value off it, especially on this sort of a map versus a much larger map. And that's maybe why we're seeing Muzi flex over onto the IQ here. And it just provides that extra layer of security here for NIP that they're going to have a clear idea of what they're getting themselves into. And it's almost like they're ramping themselves up to final form. You know, Muzi's eased himself in with a couple of fragging operators and now is going to bring out the IQ where he's got a bit of something to do as well as get the kills.
I definitely like that. And, you know, I guess we'll see how much IQ that we actually get, just given that the changes that were made onto her. We're still waiting for the day that her nades come back, by the way. I'm still on the pro nade IQ side of the fence. I don't know about you, Ollie.
I'm pro grenades.
Yeah?
I think as long as they get removed from someone else.
Yes, Sledge.
I'm obviously not pro another set, but...
or Yana, maybe.
I mean, Iana's days are numbered, honestly. Anybody that crouches onto Iana is just a ticking time bomb at this point. Iana is next in the firing line for that nerf, 100%.
There we go. Just hand the nades... Oh, that was a nice kill. Hand the nades over from Yana to IQ. See, I mean, Muzi would have been able to get that kill if IQ had some nades, you know what I'm saying?
He probably would have been able to get the nade kill. I agree.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a 1-for-1 regardless, so it's back to a 4 versus 4. I say back to a 4 versus 4. It is finally, for the first time, a 4 versus 4. And with about 1 minute 20 left, finally these players can actually start pressuring down onto the basement. Notice as well, Ollie, because we haven't really mentioned it, they're not going for the same push that they usually do here on Laundry. They're looking to set themselves up, going down into Pillar from the tower stairs, and they're likely going to use Psycho to guide them in.
It's strange, isn't it? Because Black Dragons aren't playing the mirror this time either. So it would have been easier than ever to take in the freezer because you've not got the mirror window to deal with. It just seems a little bit strange.
Well, it was a 6-pick, wasn't it? So they probably
got a little bit debated into it, yeah. I think Psycho gets himself taken off live. How have you hit that shot? Psycho, I think I heard him drop the shield to try and actually get out of the way of the Toxic Behavior canister gas, but he's no longer a factor inside of this round, and a big part of the pushing power NIP has been lost. Now we're left with a dangerous and desperate hatch drop, which everybody knows is going to be coming because it gets announced with stuns. A kill will be found on the drop, but 2 found for Black Dragons, Patoxy and Perez. Perez actually picking up the final 2 out of 3 kills there, as basically NIP just lined up for him, ready to be knocked on down.
Yo, that was actually a really nice kill, but it meant nothing. So now my reaction just seemed really like overbearing. I think that NIP kind of got in their own heads a bit. They thought we need to change things up. Otherwise, Black Dragons are going to be adapting too much. And I do generally like that attitude, but obviously it was sort of I think they just kind of misjudged it. They didn't necessarily know that those 6-pick was going to be coming out. And one of the things that became really apparent or just very well exemplified in that round was how much they rely on Psycho to be able to push their way into a site. This is the first time that Psycho got killed, or at least that Psycho got killed early in the round at a time where they still needed him. So they didn't have him laid into their round like they have on previous attacking rounds, and you can straight away see the difference that that makes, especially when entering in through a way more risky avenue of ingress, such as the meeting hatch.
Sit down, Psycho. Honestly, we've just seen it again on the replay, and that's going to be a great shot from the other player perspective. It just does not every day you get to see those sort of shots pulled off when a Monty's full sprint and it's a little short spray from an SMG-11 that takes him down. Back upstairs we go now for Black Dragons, somewhere that they were very successful previously. NIP not only ran out of time, but they also ran out of information when previously attacking in here. We'll have to see how they choose to proceed. Perez was the standout player again. He's been pretty standout throughout the entire game so far, but I remember him having a big part to say about how this round played out last time we saw Big Storms defended by Black Dragons. They're still fighting against that match point. They've been able to pull 1 back. Maybe, just maybe, they can grab 2 and get themselves a guaranteed overtime and a guaranteed point out of this game.
Oh, Julio to open things up. Again onto Patoxy, who has had some really nice shots so far today, but there have been a couple of rounds where he's been, stultified kind of early. That has obviously meant that he's not available for hire later on in the round. A lot of stuff, a lot of utility out here upstairs. Again, we spoke before about the need for that to be cleared, but NIP have been pretty successful so far in taking control of games and big windows. So a lot of this utility that's present in Attic and Trophy, how much of that is going to need to be touched to the same extent that it would be if they were making a push through those areas?
NIP with the advantage for the time being. They haven't really been able to press that all too much, and Live actually takes Julio down, so it will be a very late trade for the trade nonetheless. Muzi comes in and is able to secure the kill onto Live. NIP starting to look a little bit more like their former selves with that ability to consistently trade off the back of one another. They do still sit in an advantage. They haven't got a great deal of information left at their fingertips. 4 drones remain. Perez is going to be inside a pit. He's got a bulletproof camera that's looking all the way through Attic, so somebody likely can be watching that out for him. Psycho going to shut down Basetto. Basetto died in the same place last time It wasn't as big a factor as you may think, but the man count advantage for NIP is a little bit more overbearing here. And Perez and Ion have a lot more to worry about. There's a ping on the breach. We know that somebody's going to be pushing through onto there. Ion misses just a couple of shots and can't get lucky trying to land on. Eventually, Muzi will shut Perez down. Psycho picks up Ion, and NIP lock in a regulation time win. Only just, but it's a regulation time win nonetheless against Black Dragons.
Mate, take what you can get, especially after the rough stage that NIP have been having so far. And yeah, sure, maybe it's not quite the same level that we've seen from NIP in the past, but it is still something, and they need to be holding on to their place in the leaderboard. We saw at the very beginning of the day, NIP in the stage 3 standings have slipped into 7th. This should at least give them that boost upwards out of that bottom 4.
Absolutely, 4 of the players on 10 kills or more as well. Only Kamikaze sitting there at the bottom. Last week when we saw NIP win, it was a fairly somber reaction. This time they look a little bit more energized and a little bit more pleased with that one. Probably very happy to be coming away with a full 3 points there, as if that one had slipped into an overtime as well, regardless of the result, it's still not a full 3 points. And really, that's what everyone is going for inside of this. It's nice to get OT points for a loss or a win, but you really need the full 3.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. So it was really nice to see, especially as NIP, I don't think really started off the game that excellently, but as soon as they came onto their attack, it really looked like they were feeling themselves a lot more. And sure, their adaptation that they tried to make didn't necessarily work out for them, but it also wasn't a total disaster. And I think with a little bit cleaning up, then they probably could have taken that round entirely. So I'm just really happy to see that, because this has been a team with a very strange story since SI happened. You know, came into stage 2, were doing absolutely fantastically, nigh on unbeatable. Mexico Major, they just something happened to them, and I don't know what it was. I don't think any of us do. And we've come into stage 3 hoping to find the answer to that, and so far it has been disappointment. And there are so many people out there who want to see NIP succeed. Maybe this is finally a step towards that.
Absolutely. And, you know, props to Black Dragons as well. You've got to give them a shout out in that. They came and they played a really good game of Siege. And I think for a side that has seen its fair share of changes over the stages, you can really hold their heads high knowing that they gave NIP an exceptional fight on Oregon, but just not quite enough to come away with any points. We're going to get Chunks back in here. I think we have an interview with Julio lined up, as is the norm when NIP get a win.
Well, we're used to it by now. We've spoken to him enough. We should know the drill. Look, that was a really interesting game, I think. Obviously, NIP felt like they struggled for a little coming into it, but I think it's Black Dragons that have most of my attention right there, being able to take it all of the distance. It was really impressive to see. I believe we do have Julio for an interview. He is ready, so let's get him in here right now and see how that was for him. Julio, regulation time win, that's the 3 points. You've got to be feeling good about it. Oh. Okay, we're just having some technical issues with Julio here. Is that better, or? Okay. We'll just talk about that match a little bit more until we get those audio issues sorted. Gio, look, it was very scrappy throughout right there. It felt like it could have gone either way. We got to talk about that kill, though, on the drop shot. That was amazing to watch. I heard your reaction, but, you know, when you lose the round, it's hard, isn't it, you know, to be able to hype up a moment like that when, well, it wasn't worth much in the end.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that these players are all fantastic and they're all capable of getting really good, impressive kills. But ultimately, it's what happens and what the context in which those kills exist is, right? And the context of that kill in particular was just not that the team were all surrounding it. The team weren't ready to capitalize off of whatever. It was their opponent, and if you know, could be the coolest kill in the world, but if your opposing team manages to get everything and secure themselves and put themselves in a good position, then who cares?
Who cares indeed. Look, Ollie, I think a lot of people probably looking at this match coming in. I know that we were maybe talking before we even got into it, like, well, it's probably going to be over pretty quickly. We can see NIP coming out on top, but I think Black Dragons have put up a serious fight right here. The roster moves clearly working out for them. Or is it something else? Or maybe was it just a failure on Nip's part at times?
Honestly, that was the game that I expected to see. I expected to see NIP go in there, and I expected them to come up against an opposition. It was never going to be a rollover, and I really hope we actually get to speak to Julio. I know that we've got a time schedule to keep within. I know that everything's all over the place today, but I do think we've got him back in, so I'm going to save my comment and maybe pose it as a question.
Yep, Julio, come on in here. How are you feeling after that match? Apologies for the technical issues.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey.
Loud and clear, loud and clear.
Nice.
Look, I'm just going to let Ollie kick off with the questions here because he already had one at the ready for you.
Well,
Okay.
Julio, something that I wanted to ask, and it's something that I was going to discuss on the desk, was at the start of that game, you guys looked like you were playing very reserved, like not quite scared, but you were really just letting the game come to you. And then over the course of the rounds, you got a lot more confident and you started to look a little bit more like yourselves. Is that a fair assessment? Were you fairly reserved at the start?
Yeah, for sure. We noticed this. Like it was not on purpose, but like individual, the players were playing like that, and we noticed that, and we changed it mid game for sure.
It was just something that was really obvious to watch. You know, you remember and you see you guys playing like aggressively from round one. And it was just like, is that a confidence thing on your part that, you know, because you've not had the best stage so far, you really just want to try and guarantee that you're only going for those aggressive plays when you're ready for it?
Yeah, we were like trying not to lose rounds and play passive, and it was not working out even in advantage. So we just changed that, play more aggressive, and things like that. It's things you see mid game, you know.
It definitely feels like that more aggressive meta is becoming more and more of a thing. I do want to ask, though, look, we know that you've had a rough start to the Sage, a bit of a rocky start. Coming into this one, it's Black Dragons, its opponent that a lot of people probably had you guys pegged to come out on top on. But I want to know how you adjusted your preparations for this one. Was there anything major that you changed to prepare for this match, or was it just business as usual and hope for the best?
They just analyzed their maps. We thought it would be Coastline because it's a great map for them, but they chose Oregon. So yeah, I think there was nothing special, no, just a week.
Yeah, I mean, look, overall on the standings right now, the 3 points, it's got to help you out. Can I ask, and I know that this is kind of an up-in-the-air question, where do you guys really envision yourself finishing the season? Do you think that you can come out in the top 2, top 3?
I don't think top 2, top 3 or 4 because the top 2 are really had advantage of points. But yeah, we are playing better. Just wanna play better, you know, for the Elite Six and for the other tournaments. I think we are able to do this, and yeah, that's it.
Look, I mean, you're going about it the right way. Consistency is key, and hopefully you can get it back on track. Julio, thank you so much for joining us. I know we had to cut it short, but with all the technical issues earlier, we're in a bit of a rush. So thank you once again, man.
Thank you, guys. Hope to see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. I love the confidence coming out of him right there. He's already feeling good for it going into tomorrow. Look, one more game to go this evening. We're going to take a very short break, but we'll be back in a minute. Team Liquid versus W7M. You do not want to miss this one.